Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Unity Making RPG series. This is HardlyBriefDan, and today we're going to be talking about the new project that I'm in. You might be wondering, hey, what happened to the other one? What happened to all of our scripts and stuff? No worries, it's still there. And don't throw yours away. But I wanted to start anew for the new year and kind of go back and fix some things that I wanted to do. And I took some time to think about whether or not I wanted to start a brand new project or not. And I came up with the decision that I think would be better to start a brand new project. I'm going to be stealing some scripts that we've written before. It's probably like the mouse script and stuff and the movement and all that stuff, because that's usable in all your other programs. You should write stuff that way. But basically, there's a lot of things I wanted to go back and edit, and one, that would make for some real boring videos, and two, if I didn't make a video on it and I just started doing something, you guys, there'd be a lot of questions. How did that come to be? So to avoid all that, to avoid the boring videos, to avoid the plethora of questions I'd get, I'm just going to start brand new and incorporate a lot of the stuff that we've covered and then introduce some new topics and concepts to you guys. So, and also, with that, there's a couple things I didn't touch base on. Mainly inventory was a big one that I didn't do in the last series. So that is something that I will be doing for this series. I will touch base. This will be the first thing, well, probably third thing we do. We have to get some things set up first, but then we'll go ahead and tackle inventory. We'll get our item inventory up and running so that you guys can use it in your projects. But the first thing I want to do today was start on our stat system. On my website I listed that one of the things I wanted to do was revamp the stats for the game. And so the way I'm going to be doing it now is we're going to be creating a base stat, meaning every stat is going to inherit this information. It's going to inherit a name, a description, base value, and then modified value, plus whatever else you can come up with in your mind. It's the world's yours, the idea is yours. This is just a way to get you started. So from there, we're going to build five stats that will be used in the game, and you're going to go ahead and see me do some of that. I'm not going to code it all because I know that, again, it's really repetitive and get really boring. So what I'm going to do is code the base stat, show you a couple base statistics like endurance and stamina you see down here, and then I'll create a brand new one, and we'll do strength or something, and then I'll make sure you understand that, and then I'll show you why we're doing this at the end. So first things first, go ahead and start a new project if you want. You don't have to. You can go ahead and re-edit all your old scripts if you want. This will work for that. It'll take some time, but it will still work. So I am in a new project. I'm in Unity 4.6. I have put the Unity Visual Studio plugin, or the asset here. I've imported it. If you don't know how to do that, I made a video on how to do that, so definitely check that out. And then I just added some folders. You got audio, prefabs folders, scenes folder, scripts folder, just to kind of keep me organized. But what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and open up Visual Studio and show you guys the scripts. So I created 3 scripts here. I have a base stat script, a base endurance script. Let me zoom in for you a little bit. Base stat, base endurance, and base stamina. What we're going to do now is work on our base stat. If you see all these errors, it's because I actually have these scripts written already, and they're throwing exceptions because there's no base stat, right? Base endurance actually inherits from base stamina, or base endurance, inherits from base stat, and right now base stat doesn't exist. So what we're going to do is go ahead and create that. So the first thing we're going to do is create some private variables. So this is going to be private name. This is going to be the stats name. Pretty self-explanatory. We're going to do a private string here, and this is going to be our description. We'll do a private integer, an int, and this will be our base value. And then we'll do another private int, and this will be our modified value. Now, you actually might want to make this a float depending on how we do calculations. We might have to go back and change that later, but it's not a big thing to do now because some of our calculations will probably involve floats and stuff, and which will make that, we can always cast it back to an int. So it's not a huge problem, but it's something to think about. The last thing we're going to do is go ahead and create a public enum, and this enum is going to store all of our different stat types. So you might have all kinds of stat types. I said I'm going to create 5 here. You might have 100, and this is where you're going to go ahead and put those. So I'm going to do stamina, endurance is 1. We have intellect, mastery, and then finally we have strength. Okay, and Oh, I spelled that wrong. Right. Okay. So then here are our 5 stats. So now we need to go ahead and create a private variable for these, and this is going to be of type stat types, and we're going to call it stat type. Or we're just going to go ahead and call it type. Controls to save, and then go ahead and jump down here, and we're going to go ahead and create our public getters and setters real fast. And this is a public getter and setter is just a way to more proper way, I believe, to access the private variable. So we're going to go ahead and do public string. We'll do stat name like that, and then we go ahead and do get your brackets here, your curly brackets, and you do return, and then we do underscore name colon or semicolon, excuse me. And then we do set, and this is going to be underscore name is going to be equal to the value that you send it. So you'll see that being used in the actual stamina base stamina script in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And then, so I just highlighted it, and then I hit Control C. Now I'm going to hit Control V to paste, Control V to paste, because we need a few of them. So I'm going to do that. And now we need to go ahead and change a few things. So now we need description. So I come up here, going to highlight description, I'm going to double click it, and then hit Control C to copy it. Come down to under stat name, we're going to make our description. So I'm going to double click on name, and then Control V to do that, to paste it. And we're going to change it from stat name to stat description. Pretty simple, and we're just going to go ahead and do this for the rest of them. So now we have a base value. We need to go ahead and change that. So name base value. Trying to do this quickly because this isn't that fun to watch, but it's a necessary thing to do. Alright, so now we're going to change that to stat base value. Controls to save. Always controls to save. It's the fastest way to do it. Alright, so now we have modified value in here. We're going to go ahead and change this to stat modified value. Make sure you change the string to an integer because it is an int. Controls to save. We don't have any errors. And the last one is going to be stat type. So I'm going to go ahead and Control C to copy stat types. I double clicked it up here. I'm going to scroll down, double click string, replace it. It's going to be stat type like that. I'm going to go up here, scroll up using the mouse wheel, double click type, Control C to copy, double click name, Control V to paste. Pretty simple, right? So we have our base class set up, right? And every stat now that you create is going to inherit this class. And it's going to allow you to give it a name, a stat name, a description, value, modified value, all this fun stuff that we can mess around with later. And anything else you can come up with. You don't have to do these things. You can do anything you want. This is just a way to get you started. Alright, so now we have that. You can see all these errors, the exceptions went away. And if I actually go into Unity, I actually had a ton. Oh, excuse that. I had a ton in the console. Now they're all gone. That's because we created the class here with the correct public getters and setters and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into our base stamina. Our base stamina stat here. It's just a script, C# script I created before, and it's called base stamina. And I'm going to go ahead and open that up in Visual Studio. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We're going to talk about a few things. First is the system.serializable in square brackets. This again is used for serializing objects. You can serialize using the C# serializer. You can serialize things and turn it into basically a string of like binary numbers, ones and zeros, and save it somewhere. And this is just this line of code here just allows that to happen for this class. We have base stamina here is the name of the class. It's going to inherit base stat, meaning we're allowing everything that's created in this base stat class to be available in our class, our base stamina class. Okay. Now we have a public method here. It doesn't return anything because it's just the base. It's just the what's it called? It's just the base method here for the base stamina class. And you need to name it base stamina. Whatever your class name is called for this first one here, you're gonna have to do that. Anyways, we have our public method here, and this is when we call this class and we create a new instance of it. It's gonna go ahead and call this function or this method, and it's going to go ahead and create a stat called stamina with a description of directly modifies player's health. It's going to give it a stat type of stamina, and it's going to set its base value at 0 and modified value at 0. Now this is all editable. Like you can redo this if you want. You can change it up. You can set it to 1 or 2, whatever you want. It's all up to you. And when you actually create the stat, which we can do using this method, you can assign different values. So if you're doing, let's say later down the road we're creating randomly spawned enemies for a certain level, you can actually edit and change the base stat value for all your stats. But we'll get into that later. Basically, I just want to go ahead and show you that this is like the setup for each class. I'm actually going to go ahead and double click this system.serializable. I'm going to hit Control C to copy it. And I'm going to jump in our base stat up here, scroll up to the top, and I'm going to paste it right above the class. And this allows this entire class to be serializable, meaning we can save it later on. Now I've done the same thing with base endurance. It's the same setup, just a little bit, change the wording around. So what we're going to do now is create one of these, and just real quick to show you exactly how to do it. So under our stats folder, I'm going to go ahead and do create C# script, and we're going to call this base. Let's see, what we can go ahead and do intellect. Be simple. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and double click that. It's going to open up. This just reloads, that morning reloads the entire folder here for you, or the project. I'm going to hit Control and use my mouse wheel to zoom in so you can see it. See, this is like the basic script that Unity had, like the format. I'm going to go ahead and double click Unity Engine, get rid of that, highlight it. We're not going to be inheriting model behavior anymore. We're going to be inheriting base stat, right? And therefore, since we got rid of Unity Engine, we can't use these methods. We can't use the start or update method. So we're going to erase it. I'm going to hit Control S to save, and I'm going to actually jump into stamina here, and I'm going to go ahead and copy serializable, and I'm going to jump back in. I'm going to paste it. We can actually get rid of system collections because we don't need that. And I'll go ahead and delete that. Control S to save. I'm going to jump back into our stamina. I'm going to go ahead and copy this method here, this public base stamina. I'm going to paste it into our base intellect, and now we need to go ahead and change the base stamina to base intellect. So I'm going to double click base intellect, Control C to copy, double click stamina, and replace it. And now we're going to go ahead and just change all these values to what they need to be. So if you're not working on intellect, you have wisdom, then you're going to go ahead and change this how it works. So we'll say directly modifies players' intelligence or something. Okay, and the stat type is now not going to be stamina, it's going to be intellect, and the base values will be 0 and modified will be 0 as well. So now we have our 3 stats. Again, I'm going to make the other 2 off screen or off the video because it's not fun watching that over and over again. But basically I wanted to get the setup real fast, so 1, we can jump into items, so then we can jump in creating our inventory system that you guys want. But 2, because this allows us to eliminate tons of lines of code. So let me go back and Control to save. I'm going to jump back into Unity here. We're in the project. And I'm going to go ahead and do our player folder. In our scripts folder, I created a folder called player. And we're going to go ahead and create a new C# script, and we're going to call this base player. So every player is going to have this, every player character, like create a character, that's you. You're going to have this class associated with you, right? This player is going to have that, and we can go ahead and leave model behavior and all that stuff for now. I just want to show you that what I'm talking about. So first we need to do at the top, go ahead and do using system.collections.generic. Okay, this is going to allow us to access the list type, which is what we want. So now in our base class, our public class base player here, we're going to go ahead and create a private variable. It's going to be of type list, and in the bracket, in these little caret brackets here, we're going to go ahead and do base stat, and then we're going to go ahead and name this player stats. We're going to set that equal to a new list of base stat, and then your parentheses and semicolon. So what this has done is this has created a list, which there's tons and tons of things we can do with lists. We can organize them, sort them, search for them. It's all cool stuff. And in this list, we're storing the object or class type called base stat, right? And what this does now is we can go ahead at the start of our game, depending on the class the character picks, we can set all these stats here. We can go ahead and set the stats and store them in this list, and then refer to them at any time if we need them. If we need calculator health, we can go say, hey, check out our player, go through our player stats, look for the stamina stat, and get its value. It's real simple, and what this does is it eliminates a whole bunch of lines of code for getters and setters and stuff. Before, if you remember in the other project, we had things like it said private int stamina, right? If I can spell it, stamina, and then we even had private then we'd have private int stamina like base value, right? And then we have stamina modified value. We have all these little things, and we can just make it into its own group, its own object. Then we can eliminate a whole bunch of lines, unnecessary lines of code, and it makes it easier for you to I feel like it makes it easier for another person to understand. It's easier to comment. You can go back, if you come back a month later and look at it, you say, oh, I get it. I know what I did there. So that's just basically what I wanted to do. And now, using the same structure, we can say all items include a list of base stats. You can say all enemies include a list of base stats, or of enemy stats, item stats. Anything can have this list on it. You can put it anywhere. And then later on, let's say you decide, I know I'm rambling right now, but let's say later on you decide you want to add more to your stats. All you have to do is go to your base stat here, your base stat class that we just created, and just add to it. Say you want like a cost to the value. Maybe you can buy stats in your game. You can purchase them. Maybe you want to go ahead and say, all right, well, let's go ahead and add a private int here, and we'll call it _cost. And then you make a public setter and getter for it. And then basically all your stats now have this cost variable. Once you create the public getter and setter, you can go to your stamina stat and say, hey, cost is equal to 1,000, meaning 1,000 of something, whatever that cost really means. So it's pretty cool. It's expandable. It's simple. This is how we've done the items in the past. This is how we do a lot of stuff. We're making our stat an object now that can be stored in a list, and makes it a lot easier to sort and stuff. Anyways, that's the video for this time. I'm going to go ahead, like I said, and do the rest of the scripts off the video. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and jump into starting our items. We're going to create a very basic item so I can jump into showing you guys how to do inventory. The inventory will be several videos long, but we'll cover how to do like an item, like a picture icon based inventory, and then probably jump into a list inventory. That'll probably be pretty simple. Doing all that, we are going to have to use the Unity UI, which is fun and simple to use for the most part, which will be a good tutorial for all that. So anyways, till next time, I'll talk to you guys later.